I try to do this every once in a while just to say thank you to those who serve us in worship. I have worked in church work for close to 45 years. Many, many years of that, and really all of it in some respects with worship and music. And I love to worship the Lord in music. And we're not a large church. We know that. But we're blessed with some of the finest music that can be had. Yes. And I'm thankful for that. When I had the opportunity to stand over here and not toot something or pluck something, and I was just listening to the balance of the guitar here, and the foundation of the bass and drums, strings sweetly mixed through that. And it was just precious. It was wonderful. And so for all of you, I just thank God for you. You're a gift to us. And I thank the Lord for your gifting. And all the parts in the praise team. I've had praise teams that I had 8 or 9 people that every one of them sang lead. Sort of. But I thank you. In Acts chapter 12. Subject matter this morning is freedom. I didn't have any white breeches, so I couldn't wear red, white, and blue, but I came as close as I could. We've had a lot of booms and bangs and songs. I thought it was kind of funny that San Diego did all of their fireworks in 15 seconds. Knowing how much those cost, that was about $1,000 a second, probably, or probably $10,000 a second or something like that. And I did a little research, even looking at the celebration of what we were celebrating with the 4th of July. The War of 1812, the foundation of our nation, and what the underlying, and part of that was stirred by my trip up to Canada on this little cruise we took a few weeks ago. We just got to spend a day in Boston, and of course Boston is a lot of history. And we popped a corn and studied a lot of the historical things and the story of Paul Revere. We got to go to the church where it was won by Lynn Tubasi and all this stuff. And they told some of the underlying parts of that story, and we think that was a one-man thing. It was not. Paul Revere was not even the only horse rider. There were other folks riding the horses through the area, but there were hundreds of people literally that were on the thoroughfare of these men riding that would take the message, and most of them young girls, and would run the message into the villages and bring the warnings to the people. Things like that were intriguing. We got into Halifax, Nova Scotia, and they took us to a place called the Citadel. And I found this very intriguing. Halifax was really kind of empowered and became a city right after the War of 1812, somewhere about 1818 to 1830, along in there. And most of the people that came that were industrious and became the leadership of Halifax were loyalists that left America because they were loyal to the crown. And they didn't stay because the war was lost for their benefit, and they went to Halifax and formed quite a city, but many Americans who were still loyal to the crown formed that, and they built there this place called the Citadel. And it's on the highest piece of land in Halifax. It's a 5-sided fort, and it is not to protect the harbor. They've got other things out in the harbor to protect. It was to protect from a land invasion of Americans. They thought we had become so aggressive in taking this little land down here, we may want that land too. And so they built a citadel to protect the Canadians from the Americans. I'm kind of glad they never had to use it. And it became a nice little stop for the tour bus. And I'm thankful for that. But in looking at our freedom, a lot of our freedoms really were accomplished when we left the motherland. When we came, when it was religious freedom of worship and so forth. That all really happened and was put in place during that time. And really the Emancipation Proclamation and all of that kind of stuff was more really to just go ahead and have England turn us loose. England had some pretty strong tentacles, and they were almost all financial. The War of 1812 was as much about money as it was anything else. It was taxations. It was the fact that they would not allow us as a people to print our own monies. It was called the Stamp Act, and some of those things. But it was really just the finishing process of what was started when we came to the new land. And so buying our freedom was an important thing. And I'm not going to read that Constitution and preamble and all that stuff that stipulated and really just designated that independence as a nation for us. But I have found and I have realized, and there was a couple of things I found out in this study that I found very intriguing. It is very possible that one of the reasons we as a people, a few years later, were so tough on the Cherokee Nation, and we were cruel to the Cherokee Nation. A lot of the reason for that was they fought with the British. They felt like they had more of an opportunity with the crown than they did with these bunch of patriots that were forming this nation. And another reason that I think the slave trade went on as long as it did until we got to the Civil War was a lot of the American blacks fought with the British. Again, they felt like their freedom was more in possibility. But we as a nation, even when we proclaimed ourselves free, we really, for quite a while, for many, many years, the freedom that America enjoyed was simply for white male citizens. Those freedoms were not established for anyone else in our colonies for years and years and years. And I'm thankful that we got past a lot of those things. And the workings of freedom are still at work in our life. We are not the nation we need to be. You know that? We still have bondages in this nation for a lot of folks that we still need to continue the work of liberation and freedom for all. And that's a national statement. But I also find that we whom the Son has set free is free indeed. It's true, it's true, it's true. But a lot of us aren't living in the freedom that the Word of God has offered us. We, and I put me in the we, live daily with bondages of this world and of the enemy that bombard our lives and just give us all kinds of havoc in our relationships, in our homes, in our joy, in our self-awareness. It's just the enemy does not want you to be free. I thought of a phrase even earlier in the service to put in this moment. A lot of us are just full of ourselves. Do you remember? My grandmother used to say to me, if I was acting up, she'd say, now, Herbie Pete, you're just too full of yourself. And I think that says a whole lot tell you, okay, here's step number 1 to be free. Do this. Step number 2 and step number 3. And like this last week, my son Chris was off on a vacation swimming in 4 hotel swimming pools and a brother-in-law swimming pool and came back and went to our community pool and needless to say got swimmer's ear and was miserable. And I'm not going to tell you, you know who our doctor is, but I'll just tell you, he took care of Chris and gave him some ear drops, and he said, now in 2 days, if you put 10 of these in twice a day, 2 days, you'll be just totally clear. And you know what? 10 drops, 2 times a day, 2 days, he was talking. I don't have any drops for you to bring you your freedom. But I've got the Word, and I believe the Word can bring us freedom. Freedom from the fullness of ourselves, freedom from the bondages of this world, freedom from the bondages of the enemy himself. And I want to look at a story in Acts chapter 12 of some guys that found themselves in a heap of mess, in bondage. It was about this time that King Herod arrested some who belonged to the church, intended to persecute them. He had James, the brother of John, put to death with the sword. When he saw that this pleased the Jews, he proceeded to seize Peter also. This happened during the feast of the unleavened bread. Many times, bondages are thrust upon us not by anything we have done, said, or caused. Many times because we're just in the path of the headache. Quite often because of who we hang around with. And you do know that if you hang around the church, you're going to get marked. People are going to call you a church person. I had one roommate in school who used to call me a country lawyer. You're just a country lawyer. I don't know where that came from. I guess because I was from the country and talked too much. I don't know, Jim, whether that was me or not. But sometimes just the folks you hang with will tag you and you will get put within that group. And you may actually be put in some restriction or bondage. After arresting him, they put him in prison, handing him over to be guarded by 4 squads of soldiers each. This is 4 quaternions of soldiers, 16 soldiers divided into 4 watches. So that 4 of them would be on watch at all times, 2 in the prison and 2 at the door. Herod intended to bring him out for public trial after the Passover. Now, this trial was not to bring him out and see if they were going to keep him or turn him loose. The trial was to bring him out so he could do the same thing to him he had done to James. The intent was to kill him. Bottom line. There was no justice in this system. No escape, 4 soldiers, 2 chains, double doors. So Peter was kept in prison, but the church was earnestly praying to God for him. We have this stock answer to anything anybody says that they need in their life. I need a new job. I need healed. I need my relationship fixed. And we say, well, we'll pray for you. And we take that so lightly, but the truth of the matter is, it is the greatest, most powerful thing we can tell you if we do it.